Hello everyone, welcome once again. This is the last piece in the define phase, which is the Tollgate review. When we were doing the introduction to Lean Six Sigma methodology, we discussed about Tollgate review at the end of each phase. This is the first phase, which is the define phase, and here we are talking about the first phase of the first Tollgate review of the first phase of the DMAC methodology, the define phase Tollgate review. Before we talk about the defined phase Tollgate review, let's first try to understand what have we done so far in the defined phase. The idea of a defined phase was to understand the customer requirement, but before that we talked about who are the right customers for the project that we had chosen. This customer, we said, anyone who gets directly or indirectly impacted in our project can be our customer. They can be internal to the organization, they can also be external to the organization. We need to identify them well. Once we have identified them, we connect with these customers. We try to understand their requirements. These requirements or expectations are also called as the VOC, in short called as the voice of the customer. The voice of the customer, we discussed, can be gathered in many ways: survey, questionnaire, feedback, complaint, email, conversation, focus group discussion. Can be many ways of getting the customer's requirement handy. But the problem is customer requirement a lot of time is not in a very clear way. Customer a lot of time do not know their problem. They simply share what they feel like or what they experience with a product or a service. So we need to convert the customer requirement into measurable requirement, and this measurable requirements is typically called as CTQ, or critical to the quality. Now the CTQ matrix, you can also call them CTQ matrix. To give you an example, VOC to CTQ conversion, you want to purchase a high quality product or high quality product on time. So you convert that requirement into 3 high level parameters such as on time, delivery, high quality, and low cost. But this is again not very clear. Low cost can be anything, high quality can be anything, on delivery on time can be anything. Once again, some understanding I have about good, but it is still not very clear. So I give them numbers. High quality becomes 99.5% quality, on time delivery becomes within 24 hours from the order date, and low cost becomes less than $1. So that's how I'm trying to convert customer requirement into the measurable requirement. So that's my VOC to CTQ conversion I have done here. But then another problem that comes in, customer requirement can be too many, and I may not be in a condition to deliver them all at one point of time right now. So I break them, or I prioritize them in different types of requirements, where I use a method called as Kano diagram. Kano is a name of a person after which this methodology has been named, and here we have two context while I'm prioritizing the customer requirement in 3 categories: must have, good to have, and delighters. Must have are those characteristics which must be present in a product or a process to be called it the product or that process, otherwise this is of no use. Good to have are the additional features that we can provide at the same cost without charging anything extra. And then third comes the delighters. Customer may not have discuss about them, they are unspoken, they are world class, so they are exceptional features. Sometimes we are not able to provide all of them, so we prepare a timeline that in the first phase we'll do must have, then second phase target on good to have also, third phase talks about the delighters of the product or the process. That's why prioritization is important at times. Number two, or I'll say the second requirement why we should prioritize it, to cater to a certain set of customer. For example, if you look at a car example, a car comes in different versions. There is always a base model of a car. The base model of a car will have must have feature and few good to have features. So they know there is a separate audience for must have features, and the cost is separate. They add more features to it, it becomes good to have, more good to have, and all the must have, separate audience and separate cost. Then there is a delighter feature where you have all the top features, all the must have features, so separate cost for it. So sometime to cater to different set of audience, or sometime to deliver a product in different phases, we need to prioritize customers' requirement using the Kano diagram. So whatever we discussed so far, requirements, prioritization, measurement, we put them into a document called as project charter, which has 6 key elements starting from problem statement, business case, goal, the scope, key milestones, and the project team. Problem statement, we talked that it should have facts, figures, contacts, should not have any solution, any root causes, should not have any blame, should not also have any complaint kind of thing in a problem statement. While the business case talks about why do we need to solve a problem, what is the urgency need for it, and it talks about why should an organization invest in that particular problem to solve. These are the business case prepared. Then becomes the goal statement, how much time you will take to solve this problem, or how much you will solve this problem in next 6 months or 4 months. That's what we write about. And then we talk about the scope, what is in the scope of this project to process to solve, in this project to solve, and what is not in the project to solve in this current project right now. So these two details, in scope and out scope, we put as part of this scoping activity. Then we talk about the project milestone. What are the key deliverables or key dates that we should keep in mind while we're working on a project? It can be the DMAC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, Tollgate dates, or it can be the different deliverables within the each phase that we just had. And then we talk about a project team, which should typically has 3 to 4 members, a green belt, an SME, a coach, and a sponsor, and each of them have different responsibilities. And these responsibilities are assigned using a method called as RACI, R-A-C-I, responsibility, accountability, consultation, and inform. Using these 4 parameters, we assign role and responsibility of each team member in a team. And we need to keep 2 things in mind while we are preparing a RACI. One is to ensure that we should have at least one person accountable in each team for each activity. We should not have more than 2 accountable typically for each activity, and we should have at least one responsible also for each activity. Otherwise, this will become a chaotic situation. Once the RACI is prepared, we also move on to prepare a communication plan to ensure everyone is kept updated. What is the status of the project, what different meetings are happening, what different updates we are sharing, and who is the audience for each meeting, who is sending those meeting invites. That's a very simple but very key information. Otherwise, the entire project gets jeopardized if you have not put together a governance. So we also call it a governance. So that's a governance plan basically, to have a communication plan and the RACI diagram. After that, we move to prepare another work that we do in a project called stakeholder analysis, to understand who are the key stakeholders, internal, external, who gets directly and indirectly impacted by a change in the process. We need to know them, understand them, align them, work with them, keep them updated, keep them engaged in the project to ensure that they are with us when we are going to deploy the solution. And at the end, we prepare a SIPOC diagram, which is a high level process mapping, which maps a process on 5 parameters: supplier, input, process, output, and customer. These 5 parameters we use here that help us understand the boundary of the process and the key metric that we may be looking at while we are going to improve the process. At the end, we come to the Tollgate review of the process. Tollgate review is a review of everything that we have just done. So if you look at the slide here, it talks about the Tollgate review. Why are we doing a Tollgate review? We want to monitor the team progress. We want to reinforce if there are any priorities. We want to provide guidance and the direction, check for the consistent understanding, and assist team in identifying and providing resources needed for team to be successful. And we would also like to improve the coordination and management of the project, remove organizational barriers which may be hindering the success, demonstrate support for efforts of team, recognize and reward team member. So these 4 things that you see in the second column: improve the coordination, management of project, remove organizational barriers, demonstrate support, and recognize and reward team action. They are typically done by the sponsor. So there are 2 set of people who would be reviewing the entire charter and other documents in a Tollgate review. One is a sponsor, one is a black belt who may be a coach. Black belt will look at the project or review the project from the business point of view, and will ask question which we just discussed. Are we solving the right problem? Are we on the right track? Are we doing the right things? Do you have any challenge? Do you need any support? How can they further help you? That's from the sponsor point of view. While a Six Sigma black belt, who is also be a coach or a mentor, will review the project from Six Sigma methodology point of view. Are you using the methodology? Number 1. Are you using the right tools? Number 2. Number 3, are you using them right? So if do you need any help? Do you need any consultation activity here or a help? So these are the kind of things that the black belt will ask you from the review point of view. And this is event driven, not schedule driven, conducted at the end of the each phase of DMAC. Kind of question that you can expect is: who is the customer, how are customer segmented, is the data to understand critical customer requirements, what is the problem being addressed, what is the scope of this project, who are the stakeholders that are being affected, what are the goals for this project, do you have a solid project plan, have you completed and validated a process map, did you find any quick wins, and do you find a stakeholder management plan, a communication plan, do you have it, or how can they help. One thing which says did you find any quick wins. Now there can be quick wins during any part of the entire DMAC cycle. We don't have to wait for the improve phase to get the solutions. Quick wins can happen at any part of the project at any time of the project. For example, if there is a big leak in the project in a pipeline, water pipeline, so typically they will not say, government will not say that we'll replace that pipeline until nobody will get the water. They will have a backup plan. They will try to make some stopgap arrangement so that life should continue. Similarly, the process, the business should continue while we work on the project. So those should continue is also a stopgap arrangement. Sometimes the quick wins also, that while working on the project you realize, what if I can do this? So you might get an idea and you implement it right away. So nobody will stop you. It is good to have the quick wins already, in fact all the time. And it's recommended that if we can always develop and implement those best practices during the course of the entire project, that's always recommended. So we should always focus on the quick wins as well. So that's the Tollgate review that happens at the end of the each phase, where we talk about two things. One is which basically means is it's a go and a no-go decision for every project, where we decide should we move ahead in the project, should we not move ahead in the project. If the sponsor a black belt at any point of time they feel that you have not done the rigorous amount of work, or you have not done the required amount of work needed from this project point of view and from the Six Sigma methodology point of view, they may ask you to rework on some of those aspects. Until then you cannot move to the measure phase. So that's a key to remember for any Tollgate review. So that's about the define phase Tollgate review, and this is where the define phase as the first phase of the DMAC methodology gets over here. In the second module we'll talk about the measure phase of the Lean Six Sigma methodology, where we'll study how do we collect data, the problem that we just identified in the define phase here, which we measured, prioritized, put into a charter. We would like to understand the problem in a more detailed manner now. We would like to understand that problem by collecting data and try to look at the problem from various point of view. That's what we'll try to do as part of the measure phase. And so yes, that's what the module 2 talks about. Thank you once again. This is Shivendra Sharma.